So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And I want to talk about the time that I rescued my mother from insurance fraud. Now, I'm calling it insurance fraud because I don't know what's the best way to call it, but it included insurance and it included fraud. Anyway, let's start this story. So one day, my mother came back home. She'd gone to the cemetery, and she was explaining that while she was at the cemetery, she parked next to someone else's car in front of the cemetery's entrance. Like, she didn't drive inside of it. I don't know what cemeteries look in different places, but there was a place to park in front of the entrance of the cemetery, and she parked there next to someone. Now, apparently, the person did not realize that she'd parked there, and they decided they were going to leave. So they had all their windows up, and they started pulling away from where they were, their position, without taking it into consideration that there was a car next to them. So my mother tried. She said she tried to blow on a horn. She tried everything that she could, but the person did not pay attention. They couldn't hear, and they dragged the side of their car alongside hers, and but their car got more damage than hers. Just got a small little thing. I can't remember where it was exactly. Anyway, when they did that, I guess they when they realized it, I think what she was saying is that they didn't stop. They just kept driving further into the cemetery. Now, I said it was on the outside of the cemetery, right? So I guess that must have happened. They realized what happened, and they just kept driving into the cemetery, even though they probably would have felt contact. Let's not call it impact, let's call it contact. So she followed them, trying to get them to stop, and she said that I guess they stopped close to where the gravesite was, and they didn't want to talk to her. She said that they seemed really upset for her to even have a conversation with them and get insurance information, anything. They seemed really annoyed, rather. Upset's not the right word. And I guess what they were saying was like, listen, your car's not even that damaged. Just like, go away, kind of thing. So they didn't want to give any insurance information, what insurance company they were with or anything like that. So she just took the tag, the license plate. So after she did that, she went to her insurance company and she made a report to them and told them what happened. And I think she also made a police report as well. And she made a report and with a particular, she went in there and she made the report. So then afterwards, I think she got the name of the person who she made the report with as well. So afterwards, she went to the insurance company, and lo and behold, when she went to the insurance company, the other car was a customer of theirs. So now she could file a claim, and she could get her car repaired or get something for the damage. So, and my mother's car is kind of old, so it's kind of a strong car, It's gotten hit in some places before, and you really don't see the effects of it. So anyway, I think it was a light. One of the lights broke. The turn signal light broke. So anyway, she's waiting for everything to get sorted out, and surprise, as it turns out, the other person made a police report apparently, and they told the insurance that it was my mother's fault, that they didn't hit anybody at all, and she was the one that hit them. So I was like, whoa, that's a surprise. That is a crazy person who would lie like that, you know? Of course, because my mother's not going to come home and just lie to me. That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. So, as it turns out, what they do in cases like this is they hire an investigator, I guess, to look at both people's side and decide who it was that is the liar. Because both people can't have caused the accident. Somebody's lying. So the investigator, I guess they went to the police station, they looked at the police reports, and then they came to my mom's house, and my sister was around that time. So the guy came in, he was sitting down and outside, and we said hi, how you doing to him, and I noticed that he smelled like alcohol. So I just thought, okay, all right. But no big deal, because they're just going to figure out that my mother didn't lie, and that'd be the end of it. So, surprise, after the guy's done his investigation, the results of his investigation are that my mother lied, and that it would be, she was the person that caused the accident, and etc., and she would have to pay for the other person's damages to their car, which, was going to be a significant, obviously the person did more damage to their car than they did to hers. So it's like, okay, I let this go, and I figured that everything would turn out right. It's time for me to see what's going on here. So first things first, I have to admit though, the way that my mother was describing it to me, I didn't understand it at all. And well, before we get to that point, I said, surprise, surprise. The investigator decided that my mother was at fault. Well, the way that I found out that he decided that she was at fault was because my mother was on the phone with the insurance company, and she was very loud and pretty much very upset while talking to whoever was on the other end of the phone. And I had to take the phone away from her as gently as I could and try to speak to the other person. And I could appreciate what they were saying. On their end, they're basically saying that they have to go with what the investigator is telling them. They can't take anybody's side, yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, okay, it's time for me to take over here. So I said, give me as much information about the report that the other person made about the accident. So they told me that the person said that, what was it? I can't remember the details of it, but it was basically that, my mother was driving, they were saying my mother was pulling out, and she was the one that scraped against their car. So I was like, okay, all right, fine, that makes sense. Now I had to do a couple of things. One of the things that the investigator said was that there was no police officer by that name at that police station. So I had to figure out that one. Next thing I had to do was to go to the site of the accident to make sure that I understood how it happened. So I went to the police station. There was a police officer by that name at that station. It's just he was never there because he would go out with the police to, at this time, what they would do is they would hook up a tow truck to your car and take your car if you parked in the wrong place. Depending on where you parked, they would tow you, and they would have to have a police officer there. So that's what he did. So he was never at the station to go out on a report or anything. As soon as he got into work, he would, change his clothes, and that'd be it, So it was going to be difficult to find this guy. I went one day, wasn't there early enough to meet him. I went on another day, and basically, yeah, he wasn't there at that time. And I'm talking to the police officer. I'm like, how am I going to get this guy? He's like, don't worry, I will leave a message for him. Like, you will? I don't trust anybody, and I don't certainly not trust in cops. Just period. As it is, the cop is like, don't worry, I'll give him the message. And I'm like, okay, when is he going to be here? Well, Monday. Okay, so when next are you supposed to work? Tuesday. So how are you going to give him the message? You going to remember over 3 or 4 days or something what happened? So he just stops like that. So I didn't pay any more mind to the fact that he was going to pass on that message. Anyway, now, I had gotten information from the insurance employee as to what report the owner of the other car had given them. So I asked the cops there, I'm like, listen, what happened with that report that these people made? Did they make a report here? And the cop is like, yeah, they did, blah, blah, blah. It was on this particular date. 2 weeks after the accident happened, they came back and they made a report. Wow, okay. Maybe they made a report when they heard that somebody else had made a report, and they knew that they are legally supposed to make a report. So now 2 weeks after, they come back and make a report. Okay. So I'm like, can I see it? They're like, well, we're not really supposed to let members of the public see this stuff, but if you were able to read this stuff, I can't stop that. If you just happen, the book's open, it's on the page, I'm not, or the screen's up or whatever, and I can't stop you from reading it if you happen to read it. So I'm like, okay, this is an episode of some cop show, and I'm trying my best to read this thing like whichever way it is, right? Like from my vantage point, it's almost upside down, and I'm trying to read what the person wrote in this way. I can't see it full up on the screen, but what I'm reading is not what the insurance agent is telling me happened. This report has to do with the fact that the person was on the road in front of the cemetery, and as they were pulling into a parking space at the cemetery, my mother happened to collide with them. And that's not what they had told the insurance person. So, okay, good. I have my notes, and I'm putting this stuff together. Next thing is that I come back on the third occasion, finally meet the guy, and it turns out that he's real, got his phone number. He never made the entry into the system. He never entered the information. So there's no record of my mother's police report. And he's never at the station, so no, he can't be found. So it just looks like my mother is a complete and utter liar. So, I should have reported him, but whatever. I don't know. I feel like I should have reported him, but I didn't. But now at least I have his phone number. He works at the police station. I have the discrepancy between what the person said to the insurance and what they told the cops. Now, let's go to the scene of the accident. Went to the scene of the accident, and my mind was blown, because we used to live in that area at the cemetery that my mother went to. And I never remembered what it looked like. But the way that she's describing it to me, now I can see exactly how everything happened. And it's clear. So I take pictures there, and, I draw a diagram as well as to how it went down. And my mother actually has a diary. And the diary, has stuff in it from whichever day, because she's not writing down stuff when she thinks that somebody's going to be reading it. So I just photocopied the page from her diary, and I put all this stuff together in a packet, and I drop it off at the insurance company, and nothing. Nothing, no call from them, nothing happens. And then one day, I guess my mother went down there to renew her insurance, which, of course, after she paid for the damages to the person's car, well, her insurance would have paid for it. Her insurance would have paid for it, and then they would have increased her insurance. As it turns out, there's a check waiting for her at the place, because my mom likes to go to places. She didn't want to use her credit card over the phone for whatever reason. Older people are like that, I guess. And there's this check, and the person's like, oh, nobody called you to tell you that there's a check here for you? Because what was going to be the next step was that they would have, if my mother was not okay with the investigators' results, what you do is you pass it on to a lawyer, for a lawyer to look over it and see legally what their legal determination of the situation was. And that's what was happening while I was gathering my packet together. Anyway, my mother's insurance didn't go up. I hope that the other person, I wish I had reported them. I really wish that I had reported them. Now that I'm just thinking about it, and I'm just really upset and mad at them for doing that to my mother, or to anybody, but especially to my mother. I didn't report the cop either, but my mother got paid for her turn signal light, and her insurance didn't go up, and that's the end of that. So I was pretty glad that I was able to help, and I guess I will put some of the stories of stuff like this. I don't know that anything like this specifically happened again, but there's other instances where I was able to help my family, and that is that. So you can wish me lucks, you can like, unlike, comment, subscribe, and or share. Peace.